All right, studying the big book, the doctor's opinion. This is the little chapter slash forward that comes in the Roman numeral pages 25 to 32. All right, let's see what it says here. The doctor's opinion. We of Alcoholics Anonymous believe that the reader will be interested in the medical estimate of the plan of recovery described in this book. Okay, the people of AA think that we want to know what doctors said. Fine. Convincing testimony must surely come from medical men who have had experience with the sufferings of our members and have witnessed our return to health. Yeah, probably true. I'd like to see what doctors said, not just listen to what the AA guy said. All right, fair enough. A well-known doctor, chief physician at a nationally prominent hospital specializing in alcoholic and drug addiction, gave Alcoholics Anonymous this letter. Okay, so basically what they're saying in paragraph 1 here is what one medical doctor wrote. That's paragraph 1. Fair enough. Keep it simple, right? So they're always talking about in AA. Keep it simple. All right, let's see what it says. It says, to whom it may concern, I have specialized in the treatment of alcoholism for many years. In late 1934, I attended a patient who, though he had been a competent businessman of good earning capacity, was an alcoholic of a type I had come to regard as hopeless. Ooh. So in 34, this guy actually had a patient. Okay. In 1934, and he calls him hopeless. I don't know what that means from a medical standpoint, but don't sound good. Okay. In the course of his third treatment, he acquired certain ideas concerning a possible means of recovery. As part of his rehabilitation, he commenced to present his conceptions to other alcoholics, impressing upon them that they must do likewise with still others. Sounds like a pay it forward type thing, doesn't it? This has become the basis of a rapidly growing fellowship of these men and their families. This man and over 100 others appear to have recovered. Okay. So he came in there for 3 times, his third treatment. He acquired certain ideas. So this guy figured it out himself, looks like. So the patient figured out an idea to recover. Is that what it's saying? And he tells the other guys that you got to do the same thing. What did he tell them, I wonder? So the patient came up with an idea. Came up with a pay it forward type idea. He's going around sharing it with other people to recover from alcoholism. Okay, that's an interesting thing. And over 100 others appeared to have recovered. So he started a fellowship. Sounded like he started a club. I'll say he started a club. I don't know what they call it. He started a club, and 100 people recovered. Over 100 people at a club, and over 100 people recovered. Okay, and over 100 people recovered. Okay, that sounds good. I personally know scores of cases. What is scores? Scores 20, right? So at least 40. I personally know scores of cases who were of the type with whom other methods had failed completely. Okay, he knows a lot of people who didn't work. These facts appear to be of extreme medical importance. Because of the extraordinary possibilities of rapid growth inherent in this group, they may mark a new epoch in the annals of alcoholism. Well, this doctor seems to think this is a big deal. All right, these men may well have a remedy for thousands of such situations. Am I reading this right? He's saying that the patient came up with an idea to cure these guys? You may rely absolutely on anything they say about themselves. Very truly yours, William D. Silkworth, MD. Holy. So the patient comes in there on his third treatment, comes up with this idea that he tells these people, and they tell other people, and they tell other people, thousands of them have, or 1,000, over 1,000 have recovered. What does it say? Over 100 have recovered, sorry. But it might be thousands of people that, okay. So he's saying that he had a patient, comes up with this idea, starts this club, 100 people recover, and this might be he doesn't say cure though. He says a remedy. What does that mean, remedy? I'll just say this patient's idea might help thousands of people. Other people. So he doesn't, I mean, it's a big deal, right? It's a big deal. Okay, so that's what he says. All righty, let's continue here. The physician who, at our request, gave us this letter has been kind enough to enlarge upon his views in another statement which follows. Okay, he writes a second letter, fine. In this statement, he confirms what we who have suffered alcoholic torture must believe, that the body of the alcoholic is quite as abnormal as his mind. Okay, so the doctor wrote, so the same doctor wrote a second letter. The same doctor wrote another letter. And that letter says that there's something wrong with the body. Saying there's something wrong with the body. Both the body and the mind. Everybody knows alcoholics, probably true. Anyway, let's see. Quite as abnormal as his mind. It did not satisfy us to be told that we could not control our drinking just because we were maladjusted to life, that we were in full flight from reality, or were outright mental defectives. Somebody told him that, and they said, hey, yeah, you get, well, yeah, screw that. There's got to be more to it than that. Okay, so there's a medical reason besides the fact that people are screwed up. All right, fine. These things were true to some extent, in fact, to a considerable extent with some of us. Well, that's pretty humble of him to say. They really were that screwed up. But we are sure that our bodies were sickened as well. Okay? So it says minds were messed up, but our bodies were messed up too. Okay, fine. In our belief, any picture of the alcoholic which leaves out this physical factor is incomplete. All right, well, same thing. So there's something wrong with the body and the mind. Fine, great. Same, that's that paragraph. Now this next paragraph. The doctor's theory that we have an allergy to alcohol interests us. As laymen, our opinion as to its soundness may of course mean little, but as ex-problem drinkers, we can say that his explanation makes good sense. Yeah, because you're not doctors, you're not doctors, but he's a doctor. So he says that you guys got an allergy, and okay, fine. It explains many things for which we cannot otherwise account. Okay. The doctor said we have a physical allergy, right? I've heard that, allergy of the body or whatever, or something like that. I forgot what it is. Obsession of the mind. Anyway, I don't know what it is. Anyway, so let's see. Though we work out our solution on the spiritual as well as altruistic plane, what the freaking hell? Though we work out our solution on the spiritual as well as the altruistic plane, we favor hospitalization for the alcoholic who is very jittery or befogged. What kind of a sentence is that? Say it plain, dude. Say it plain. Okay, so you try to be nice to people, spiritual, right? Kind of zen it out. And altruistic, try to be charitable, helping people out, giving. Okay, peaceful and giving. How about that? That's more of that. We favor hospitalization for the alcoholic who is very jittery or befogged. Let's get that sentence squared away. So we do things using basically spirituality, but what's a better word for spirituality? I don't know what. Peacefulness. We do things using peacefulness and charity or giving. Right? Altruistic means giving, right? But sometimes people need hospital treatment, but sometimes people need a hospital, right? Because what happens if they like get alcohol poisoning or something like that? Duh. So they say, though we work out our solution on the spiritual as well as an altruistic plane, we favor hospitalization for the alcoholic who's very jittery or befogged. So what this is saying is we do things using peacefulness and giving, but sometimes people need a hospital. I don't know. It's maybe not a perfect sentence, but this one's got to be worked on. This is a little much. More often than not, it is imperative that a man's brain be cleared before he is approached, as he has then a better chance of understanding and accepting what we have to offer. Okay, that makes sense. He's got to get his, you can't be drunk when you're doing all this stuff, right? Basically, he needs to be detoxed. I'll put in here, detox. We all know what that is. All right. More often than not, it's imperative that a man's brain be cleared before he's approached, as he has then, who writes that way, a better chance of understanding and accepting what we have to offer. Okay, cool. All right. So the doctor writes a second letter, and this letter talks about the body and the mind. And he says they have an allergy. But apparently the guy who wrote this is the patient. The guy who wrote this particular chapter, except for the doctor's letters, he is the actual patient. He's the one we're talking about. That's the Bill W. guy. Okay, so let's go down to this next letter. Fair enough. So now I'll just put in, says the doctor writes, here's what the second letter said. Okay, we can summarize that. The doctor writes, the subject presented in this book seems to me to be of paramount importance to those afflicted with alcoholic addiction. Okay, so if you got this thing, you better read this. Fair enough. I say this after many years' experience as medical director of one of the oldest hospitals in the country treating alcoholic and drug addiction. Okay, so he's the #1 doctor at this fancy-dancy hospital. Fine. There was, therefore, a sense of real satisfaction when I was asked to contribute a few words on a subject which is covered in such masterly detail in these pages. Oh, well, he likes this book. Obviously, he wouldn't be writing the Ford if he didn't like the book. So he's happy that he's able to do this. Okay, so he says basically that this material, or I'll say this, the material in this book is important. We already know he's a fancy-dancy doctor. So he says right here, there's a sense of real satisfaction when I was asked to contribute a few words. I'm happy. He said, I'm happy to write these letters. Basically, it's a letter of support. He's supporting the cause. Okay, fair enough. Now he says here, masterly detail. This is a fancy writer here, right? Okay, we doctors have realized for a long time that some form of moral psychology was of urgent importance to alcoholics, but its application presented difficulties beyond our conception. What with our ultra-modern standards, our scientific approach to everything, we are perhaps not well equipped to apply the powers of good that lie outside our synthetic knowledge. He wrote this in 1939. Scientific achievement, eh? Okay, so we doctors have realized for a long time that some form of moral psychology The hell's moral psychology? Let's go look up that. I'm gonna go Google it. How about that? Moral psychology. I wonder if there's a, here we go, Wikipedia entry. That's good enough. We don't need anything super fancy for this. We're not doing a paper. All right. There's a field of study in which both philosophy and psychology, okay, here combines them. Historically, the term moral psychology was used in a relatively narrow field of moral development. Ethics, psychology, philosophy of the mind, moral judgment, moral reasoning. All right. So this doctor, so he's a medical doctor, but he thinks it's some kind of moral psychology. So it's a combination of ethics and psychology. Okay. So doctors know that alcoholics need, should I say moral psychology, or is that too fancy? Moral psychology, I guess. To come up with a better term. I think the term moral and psychology aren't too weird. So it's not just any old psychology. Everybody knows what psychology is. But morals, especially about being good or bad, right? All right, so he says that the doctors are all scientific and everything, and so they don't think about the powers of good that lie outside our synthetic knowledge. So what that's saying is that they look at everything, they're measuring everything, and they're doing experiments, test tubes, and all those other things, but stuff that's moral, like good or bad, they're saying these alcoholics need that, and that's not really what doctors do, is it? Okay, so let's go to the next thing. Many years ago, one of the leading contributors of this book came under our care in this hospital, and while here, he acquired some ideas which he put into practical application at once. Okay, that's the same thing as what that patient did. So I'll say doctors have known. I'll say doctors have long known. That's really what it says, right? Now, so he's saying here that this one of the patients came up with an idea. So one patient of mine came up with an idea. It says the leading contributors of this book, but I know that it's Bill W. though. There's other sources that tell. So many years ago, one of the leading contributors of this book came under our care in the hospital while here he acquired my ideas. Blah blah blah. Okay, fine. Later, he requested the privilege of being allowed to tell his story to other patients here, and with some misgiving, we consented. Okay. He asked the doctor, "Can I tell everybody else?" And he goes, "Yeah, all right." The cases we have followed through have been most interesting. In fact, many of them are amazing. All right, see, he's a doctor. He's studying us. He's studying the alcoholics. The usefulness of these men as we have come to know them, the unselfishness of these men as we have come to know them, the entire absence of profit motive, and their community spirit is indeed inspiring to one who has labored long and wearily in this alcoholic field. Okay, he comes up with the idea. We tell him he can go ahead and tell the other patients, and they create this unselfish group. Fair enough. One of the patients came up with an idea. We let him tell the other patients. Let him tell the other patients. And they created an unselfish group. Unselfish group. Yeah, no money, nothing. That's it. That's no dues or fees, right? Okay. They believe in themselves and still more in the power, capital P, which pulls chronic alcoholics back from the gates of death. They believe in themselves and in this power. They believe in themselves and in the power. I'll just say here, which seems to work. Okay? So this doctor is watching these other patients, and this one guy comes up with this idea. They create a group, and that's what ends up helping them. That's kind of odd. Okay. So it says up here, of course, an alcoholic ought to be freed from his physical craving for liquor, and this often requires a definite hospital procedure before psychological measures can be of maximum benefit. Okay, yeah. Of course. Of course, sometimes they need detox first. That's a lot of fancy words. You see that? Of course, an alcoholic ought to be freed from his physical craving for liquor, and this often requires a definite hospital procedure before psychological measures can be of maximum benefit. Hey, of course, sometimes they need detox first. We believe, and so suggested a few years ago, that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy. There's that allergy word again. That the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperate drinker. Oh, so the allergy is not in everybody. It's just in these alcoholic guys. And gals. These allergic types can never safely use alcohol in any form at all, and once having formed the habit and found they cannot break it, once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and they become astonishingly difficult to solve. Astonishingly difficult to solve. So, okay, so the doctor thinks alcoholism, it says we believe, but that's the imperial we. That means himself. So, so alcoholism is an allergy. And it's only in alcoholics. Not in the average temperate drinker. Alcoholics can never use any alcohol at all. Alcoholics can never use alcohol. Never take any alcohol. They can never safely use alcohol in any form at all. Never ever take alcohol again. So that's it. 100% don't touch it. The medical doctor's saying that. All right. Once they form the habit, all hell breaks loose. Right? They lost their self-confidence. They lost their reliance upon things human. Their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve. Frothy emotional appeal seldom suffices. You can't just plead with them. Oh, please don't do it. Frothy emotional appeal. I love that phrase. The message which can interest and hold these alcoholic people must have depth and weight. They got to believe what you're telling them, or else they're not gonna stop. In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves. Nearly all cases. All right, maybe I'm an exception. In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. He's telling us, so a medical doctor is sitting here saying that they need to find a higher power. So they're saying you can't just beg them to stop. They've got to find, I'll say, it says almost always, it says in nearly all cases, I'll say they usually need to find a higher power. I mean, that's what it says, right? In nearly all cases, their ideals must be grounded in a power greater than themselves if they are to recreate their lives. So this medical doctor is saying that you can't just beg them. Oh, please don't stop. Please don't drink. Please don't drink. You can't just beg them. You have to give them some message saying, hey, you got this disease, man. This is serious business. And then they got to find a higher power. That's how I'm reading this paragraph, unless I'm wrong. That's how I'm reading it. All right, let's do another one. If any feel that as psychiatrists directing a hospital for alcoholics, we appear somewhat sentimental, let them stand with us for a while on the firing line. See the tragedies, the despairing wives, the little children. Let the solving of these problems become a part of their daily work and even of their sleeping moments, and the most cynical will not wonder that we have accepted and encouraged this movement. Hey man, this stuff is seriously bad, and so if this is working, we're going to support it. We feel after many years of experience that we found nothing which has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men than the altruistic movement now growing up among them. Oh my goodness. So he's saying that this is the best solution we've seen. This solution is the best we've seen. Right? And there's nothing better. He's saying there's no, he's saying nothing has contributed more to the rehabilitation of these men than the altruistic movement now growing up among them. They should reword this whole book so that they don't have it gender specific anymore, because there's a lot of women in AA. Anyway, who cares? All right, so men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot after a time differentiate the true from the false. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontented unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks which they see others taking with impunity. So they drink because they like the effect produced by alcohol, duh. The sensation is so elusive, it escapes them. So they know that it hurts them, it's injurious, but after a while, they just can't tell the truth from the false, what's good for them, what's bad for them. Their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. The idea of not drinking is just out of their head. They're restless, irritable, and discontented unless they can again experience the sense of ease and comfort, which comes at once by taking a few drinks. Which they see others taking with impunity. So this is what happens. So they like to drink, alcoholics to drink, and they get edgy if they don't have it. I'll say get edgy. They get more than edgy if they don't have alcohol. Right? They love to drink. They get edgy if they can't get it. After they've succumbed to the desire again, as so many do, the phenomenon of craving develops. They pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful with firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over again. This is repeated over and over, and unless this person can experience an entire psychic change, there's very little hope of his recovery. Ooh. They like to drink, and they get edgy if they don't drink, but after a spree, I'll say crashing. Nobody says spree anymore. But after crashing, they swear they'll never do it again. Swear to stop. say they promise to stop. Swear, people don't like the word swear. They promise to stop. After crashing, they promise to stop, but they keep taking, but they keep drinking, keep crashing, keep promising. That's what happens when people come into AA, right? They're like, oh, I'm going to stop, and then they can't. And they, oh, I had a problem, and then I swear to God, I'm going to stop, and they can't. So it says this, unless the person can experience an entire psychic change, there's very little hope of his recovery. So they have to change. They never get better. Wow. Okay. On the other hand, and as strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol, the only effort necessary being that required to follow a few simple rules. Okay. I found that to be true. So after they recover, they don't have to struggle. Yeah. Okay. Men have cried out to me in sincere and despairing appeal. Doctor, I cannot go on like this. I have everything to live for. I must stop, but I cannot. You must help me. Faced with this problem, if a doctor is honest with himself, he must sometimes feel his own inadequacy. Ooh. So he's admitting that this is more than a medical problem. Although he gives all that is in him, it is often not enough. One feels that something more than human power is needed to produce the essential psychic change. Ooh. Though the aggregate of recoveries resulting from psychiatric effort is considerable, we physicians must admit that we have made little impression upon the problem as a whole. So they help some people, but they haven't really cured the problem. Many types do not respond to the ordinary psychological approach. The ordinary psychological approach. Oh, he's a psychiatrist too, so he knows about psychiatry diseases too. Yeah, okay. So they can do psychiatry on the disease. So it's not just chemical medicine, it's also psychology. This guy's an expert in psychology. So psychology doesn't help. Holy crap. So let's see how can we summarize this? Sometimes alcoholics beg for help, but doctors can't cure them. But doctors, no cure. That's what he's saying, right? There's no cure. The doctor cannot help him. Neither medicine or psychology. I'm going to put in here no medical or psychiatric cure. There's no medical, so they can't. There's no drug they can give him that's going to fix it, and there's no like psychological treatment that they can do. It says here many types do not respond to the ordinary psychological approach. It says many, it didn't say all of them though. But it says that we got to feel. It says we have sometimes feel our own inadequacy. The doctor's being very humble here. So over all these years, doctors have treated these people in these hospitals, but they haven't really cured the problem. Okay. Wow. That must have been hard to write if you're a doctor. I do not hold with those who believe alcoholism is entirely a problem of mental control. That's what I always hear is, hey, just stop, right? Just use your mind over matter, right? I choose to quit, or whatever this stuff is. I do not hold with those who believe alcoholism is entirely a problem of mental control. I've had many men who have had, for example, worked a period of months on some problem or business deal which was to be settled on a certain date favorably to them. They took a drink a day or so prior to the date, and then the phenomenon of craving at once became paramount to all of their interests, so the important appointment was not met. These men were not drinking to escape. They were drinking to overcome a craving beyond their mental control. Ooh. So some alcoholics cannot just choose to stop. He's saying here they're overcoming because they're craving, because the physical craving is too strong. Yeah, you know, where people they just have to have a drink, and it's in the back of their mind. They just can't. They can't get rid. Can't shake that mental weirdness. All right, so let's see. So he doesn't think it's just mental control. Yeah, that's what this whole point is. It's not just the mind, it's also the body. It's both. So the mind, yes, they want to stop mentally, intellectually, they know they should, but he knows some of them that they were just fighting a craving. Their mind isn't strong enough to fight the craving. Okay, that makes sense. So that's the mind, that's the body over mind, right? Okay. There are many situations which arise out of the phenomenon of craving which cause men to make the supreme sacrifice rather than continue to fight. Wow. Some people kill themselves instead of continuing the cycle. Everybody in AA knows some of these people. Yeah, there's people who just like they just can't keep, they know they have to quit, but they also know that they can't quit. So they just kill themselves because they don't want to hurt their families and everything. All right, so the classification of alcoholics seems most difficult and in much detail is outside the scope of this book. Okay, classifying them. Okay. There are, of course, there are the psychopaths who are emotionally unstable. Okay, hang on, let's see. Classifications. So types of alcoholics, classifications, types of alcoholics. We have the psychopaths. They're emotionally unstable. We are all familiar with this type. They're always going on the wagon for keeps. They're over remorseful and they make many resolutions, but never a decision. Now, let's go back and let's go check out what is a psychopath? Definition, psychopath. Person suffering from a chronic mental disorder. Okay. Whack job. I don't know what the right word. I'm not a doctor. All right. So these people are psychopaths. Psychopaths. All right. Yeah, there's definitely those whack jobs out there. Oh yeah, I'm gonna stop. I swear to God. I swear to God. There is the type of man who's unwilling to admit that he cannot take a drink. So can't admit. Call them deniers, because denial, right? They can't admit, or he's unwilling to admit that he cannot take a drink. He plans various ways of drinking. He changes his brand or his environment. There's the type who always believes that after being free entirely from alcohol for a period of time, he can take a drink without danger. Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of people like that. Oh, I can do it. I just got to change what I drink. Then there's the manic depressives. Who perhaps is the least understood by his friends and about whom a whole chapter could be written. Okay. There's the normals. There are types entirely normal in every respect except for the effect alcohol has upon them. They're often able, intelligent, friendly people. Okay, I like to think I'm one of those. All these and many others have one symptom in common. They cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving. Ooh, they all have, I'm sorry, they all have the phenomenon of craving. Phenomenon of craving. That's that you cannot resist it mentally. It's too strong. Phenomenon of craving. This phenomenon, as we've suggested, may be the manifestation of an allergy which differentiates these people and sets them apart as a distinct entity. It has never been, by any treatment with which we are familiar, permanently eradicated. The only relief we have to suggest is entire abstinence. So basically what he's saying is, if they start drinking it, then the craving kicks in. And all of these alcoholic types, no matter if they're kook jobs or if they're regular people who are just sick with this physical condition. This is a physical condition. Physical condition. Body, not a mind. That's what this whole letter is all about. All right, this immediately precipitates us into a seething cauldron of debate. Much has been written pro and con, but among physicians, the general opinion seems to be that most chronic alcoholics are doomed. Ooh, that's not good. I'm going to pause this video for a second here.